I'm your host Zoya, and this program is dedicated to the 20th anniversary of our refounding of our city. My partner in this holocast is Cindas Paticio's top investigative reporter, Rhea. Tonight I'm also joined by longtime resident, the unofficial historian from Auburn City, Bill Charles Joe. Here's Rhea with an introduction for today's guest.
Thank you, Zoya. I'm here on the streets of Cindas Patricio, located in front of the newest senior center. In just a moment, our guest speaker will arrive and we can begin our interview. But first, let me tell you a few things I gathered about Bill from our first introduction. Bill is the eccentric, unofficial historian of Cindas Patricio. He also was a renowned, recently retired nanobot engineer in his field. Bill Charles Joe can trace his history back to before the city was born.
That's interesting, Rhea. How did you first meet him?
I met him while exercising with my lane bike. He said he needed to walk home, so I offered to give him a ride. On our way, I asked him to visit us on this holocast.
Speaking of Bill, is that him leaving the senior center?
Yes, let me go get him. Hello, Bill. I'm glad to see you again. Are you guys ready to begin?
Yeah.
Okay, Bill. Last time we met, you told me your family has been based in Cindas Patricio for decades. Could you please tell me some more about your history with the city?
My family has been rooted in Cindas Patricio for over 150 years. My great-grandparents lived here when our city looked incomparable to how it is now. I remember hearing stories from my grandmother about the piles of trash, tents in houses, and how pollution was taking over more and more every year.
I heard you mention pollution, and from what I've heard, the city had an abundance of air and water pollution. In 2016, Chile produced over 81 million tons of fossil CO2 emissions. Now these emissions have completely vanished. How did the city remove these emissions from its ecosystem?
Yes, our city was on a big decline due to polluted waterways and mass air pollution. When the city got remodeled, engineers figured out how to incorporate nanotechnology into our beloved Mapocho River so our citizens could have clean water. Rooftop gardens help with controlling air pollution.
It seems like your industrial zone is one of the most eco-friendly zones in the world. Could you please explain how you managed to make this zone sustainable enough to support the city without any pollution?
We use robots to reduce human waste, but we still have people there to supervise and keep the robots under regular maintenance. We make sure to produce no air pollution and use methods that incorporate recycling.
I've also heard a lot about your transportation getting remodeled. I've recently discovered this transportation is powered by a kinetic energy source. Could you please tell me some more about this transportation concept?
We have changed our transportation to lane bikes, made by my great-great-aunt Aubrey Lane in the early 20s. They're expandable, light, and a great way to get exercise. For citizens with mobility issues, the bikes can be voice controlled. I love going out with my grandkids. Helpful.
I've heard a lot about your education system, Bill, and how it's fully virtual. How did that change things? The average student in 2036 barely passed high school. In 2121, that statistic increased to 84%. How did the newer improvements change the learning environment?
The education system sure has changed over time. My siblings and I were lucky and got to take classes through holograph from our own couch. I remember my grandparents' stories about having to drive 20 miles to the nearest bus stop, riding an hour to the closest stop near school, and then having to walk 2 more miles.
I wish I had the option growing up. What did you do to change the job situation and to make it more interesting for city residents?
Now, people can have a more personalized working experience and live their best life. I had no clue what I wanted to do when I was younger, but then I went to Cindas Patricio University and took an entrance exam and got recommended to work in the engineering field. SCU helped me realize what my passion is.
Earlier you talked about the tin shacks made of thin sheetrock and very light flimsy metal that your great-grandparents used to live in. How have the residential accommodations changed in the last century?
Long ago, Cindas Patricio wasn't exactly in tip-top shape. People lived in little tin shacks with walls made of thin sheetrock. The houses were small, and indoor plumbing and usable running water was a luxury. Over time, the construction team rebuilt these houses, with much more reliable understandings, complete with a rooftop garden.
I've also heard quite a lot about your platform architecture, and especially the pneumatic tubes used to travel between them. How did you manage to build these, and what other methods of transport do you use?
These were designed by architect Stephen Montoya decades ago, and were made to separate our residential zones, industrial areas, and commercial zones from each other so the living standards would be higher. The tubes were built out of polycarbonate and can carry anything from metal people from platform to platform. We also use small bridges and other simple methods to move from each platform.
How do you think the changes in the city affected the citizens? Do you think it made life more difficult or easier?
Life really changed for the citizens, and I believe it was for the better.
What is the entertainment in Cindas Patricio like? I heard there are plenty of new tourist attractions and activities citizens can participate in and enjoy.
Entertainment in Cindas Patricio has definitely evolved from what it used to be. We have updated what recreational activities people do so that we can take advantage of the beautiful wilderness around us. People can go horseback riding, mountain climbing, hiking, and even kayaking and swimming in our very own Mapocho River.
I also wanted to ask about your nanobot production. I've heard that one of your residents, Kaylee Hassan, recently came up with the Hassan formula, the formula used for nanobot production. Could you please explain this process in a little more detail?
Kaylee Hassan was a good friend of mine, and she often came to me with small ideas. There was even a time when she was my apprentice. Imagine my surprise when she came up with the working Hassan formula, a formula that creates graphene by gathering graphene flakes for adhesion using duct tape.
What style of communication do you use, and how do you make sure that communication is instantaneous and works in any situation?
Recently, Sindus Released Intelligence System, or SDIS, released a new form of technology known as cell devices. These devices use a quantum system and let you communicate through the device while focusing on the task in front of you. They also come equipped with personalized holographic machines customized to your cell device.
Last question for you, Bill. Building a city like this must have taken a lot of effort, and some citizens surely would have been unhappy about the building process. How did the government deal with this problem and keep the citizens safe until the city was complete?
The government hired local companies to help build the city. The workers were encouraged to pour all their effort into making their city better. They also had the people temporarily move to the mainland city of Santiago. If any citizens' possessions were broken, the government gave money to replace them. The methods were also tested ahead of time to make sure they were safe.
Well, it looks like we're out of time, Bill. Thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure to learn about your city.
Thank you, Zoya, for allowing me to introduce you to my city. Goodbye, and I hope to see you again.
Bye for now, folks. We hope you join us again on WSDI.